Do you believe that God answers all prayers?
I do.
Yeah, I think he does.
In some way, yeah.
Yes. Yes. No.
No. I do. I'm very religious. I believe that.
I believe that if it's the right time, the right place, God will answer it.
No.
No.
If you were to, then like, why do people have cancer? Why is there natural disasters, you know? But, I mean, I wish he could.
I don't know. Yeah, I believe it sometimes, and then sometimes it's just like, where are you?
I can't really say.
In some way.
The logical ones.
Nope. Because I pray a lot. I mean, I prayed for $1 million yesterday, and I'm broke.
If you pray for something stupid like, I hope my mom gives me a $10 raise or something on your allowance, then obviously it's not gonna be worth it.
I'm really religious. Like, I go to church pretty much every week, and I think if like you pray to him and like get the message through on like what you need, I think he'll give you like what you need.
I answer some, but like you have to like really believe in it, like that he's going to. You can't just like one day be like, oh, I think I'm gonna go talk to God about like.
See, I think it's important to like believe in God and to have faith, but you have to work for what you want, and you can't rely on God. It's all on you. So like it's good to have someone watching over you, but he's not gonna like pay your bills. He's not gonna like get you what you want. You have to work for it.
Yeah, most definitely completely, because I only go to church like on holidays. So like if I'm like, hey God, please watch over me this one day, like I know he's not gonna believe in me because I only see him sometimes. So
I think that he answers the ones that are necessary. Like if you're praying for like a brand new car and you really don't need it, no, he won't do it. But if it's something that you really need, then yes, he will answer.
I think God answers all your prayers, because even if you want something really bad and you don't get it, then something else happens. And when one door closes, another one opens, and everything happens for a reason. And sometimes you might be having the worst time of your life, but something good will come out of it.
The vast majority of American teenagers who pray believe their prayers are answered, according to a 2004 study by the American Bible Society.
The study also found that 24% of them believe their prayers are answered all of the time.
Another 24% believe they are answered most of the time.
And 44% said they are answered at least some of the time.
So what do you believe?
Do you believe God answers our prayers?
Does he ever say no to prayers?
Does God answer your prayers? That's what we'll be talking about today. Hi everyone, I'm Jack.
And I'm Catherine.
And this is Realfaith TV.
Many of the teens on the street believe that God answers all of our prayers.
We'll talk with them later in the show and also meet our spotlight guest, Nicole.
But first, let's meet our studio guests and find out if they think that God answers our prayers.
They are Matt, Ijama, Jessica, Christina, John, and Francesca.
So do you believe God answers all of our prayers? Does he ever say no?
I don't think he ever says no, but like in a way he's always answering our prayers, like because we don't always know what we want, so we have to trust that God will help us and guide us.
Yeah, I also agree. I also think that he might not answer us like when we want it or how we want it, but he will answer in a way that we need.
Like, I think God answers all of our prayers that are necessary. Like, for instance, if you say, oh dear Lord, I want money, like I don't think that he'll answer that. But like if you ask like, oh well, I would like money so that I'm able to pay my bills, like he'll probably do it in that way instead of just so general. But for the most part, yeah.
I think God might actually say no. Like if you pray, like you got in a fight with somebody and you pray, you know, like like make bad things happen to this person, like I'm so mad at them, they deserve to like have all these bad things happen to them. I think God will just say no, because it's not you can't use God as an instrument to hurt somebody else. Like it doesn't work that way. And so I think he would say no if that was the case.
I agree with Ijama. I think that in one way or another he is going to answer one of your prayers. I don't think he ever won't answer your prayers.
I think the Rolling Stones said it best when they said, you can't always get what you want, but if you try sometimes, you just might find you get what you need.
Yep.
I think that's how I view prayers. You know, I think God gives you what you need. Maybe not what you want, the superfluous stuff that we don't really need, but the things that are essential, you know, that's what God provides you with.
It might be okay if God says no. Like what you were saying about how God might say no if you asked him to spite one of your friends, but he's denying what you asked for in a way that can help you gain a different thing that you need.
One of the teens in the street said that she only went to church on holidays, and that she thinks that God doesn't really listen to her because she only pays attention to him sometimes. Do you agree with this? Do you think God listens to some people's prayers and not others?
I think he's listening to everyone because everybody is God's children, and he'll listen to everybody equally.
It's like the parable of the lost sheep. Even if like someone goes astray and they don't pray for a long time and they don't go to church, they're still God's children, and God will still give them a chance if they ask him for something that they need.
I think God answers everybody's prayers. It's just some people aren't looking at like the whole spectrum. They're just like, I didn't get what I wanted when I wanted it, so he's not listening to me. I think like if you look beyond that, then he's answering everybody's prayers.
I think it happens a lot of time that the people who are in more dire situations, it seems like God answers their prayers more often because they're looking for, you know, anything that God can help them with, you know, any rope out of the hole they've dug themselves into. And, you know, people who maybe are better off are kind of sitting there waiting for the one rope that they asked for. And if they don't see that, you know, they're kind of like, oh, my prayer didn't get answered, like that kind of thing.
I think we have to be willing to let God answer our prayers in ways we don't want. You have to be willing to just see one sign of encouragement that you can kind of pick out of a crowd, like someone smiles at you, that could be the answer to the prayer that you said. I think it's just you have to be willing to let things be subtle. Maybe it's confusing when we open the Bible and read, "Ask and you shall receive."
Seek and you shall find.
But we need to realize that God is speaking about the significant things in our lives.
Nowhere in the scripture does it say, ask for an Xbox 360 and you shall receive one.
God assures us in Matthew's instructions that if we, who are sinners, can give good things to those in our lives,
He who is our Father will be so much more able to give us the best things.
and no, that usually doesn't mean the latest pair of Hollister jeans.
Next, our Spotlight guest Nicole will tell us how prayer fits into her life and how she thinks God answers her prayers.
I try to pray every day in the morning when I wake up and before I go to bed and before I eat. My sister gave me this prayer rock that you put on your bed in the morning and at night. So when you go to bed, you sit on the rock, so then you remember to pray before you go to bed, and then you throw it on the floor and you step out on it in the morning, so then you pray when you wake up. And I just talk to God, just ask him for what I'm thinking, pray for people I care about. I also like listening to inspirational music. I pray for my family. I pray for friends of mine who are struggling, or people I know who are suffering through diseases or hard times, because I know that's the only way they're going to get through it sometimes, so I try and help them. My mom taught me to pray when I was little. Her and my dad always said prayers with us before we went to bed, and we always say prayers at dinner. Prayer fits into my life in different ways. When I'm sad, I always pray because I don't know what else to do, and when I'm really happy, I pray because I thank God for all my blessings. But as I've become older, I have a greater understanding of prayer, and I realize we can ask God for things. And I don't usually like to ask people for things. Even if I know there's something I want, I won't ask for it. But I think it's good that we have God to ask, because He ask and you will receive. And I just really like that saying in the Bible, and so ask and you will receive, seek and you will find, knock and it will be open to you. So if you just pray for it, it'll come to you, just maybe not the way that you want.
God does give you what you need, not necessarily what you want.
Patience is very important, and listening to how God might be answering your prayer.
Sometimes it can be tough waiting for an answer.
You may start to feel like the Verizon wireless guy that travels around saying, "Can you hear me now?" Good.
It's really easy to feel like that. How do you pray? Did you ever feel like God wasn't listening to you?
Well, when I pray, I start off with an Our Father or a Hail Mary, and then I'll thank God for all the blessings that He's given me, because when I do something for someone, I like to hear a thank you. So I figure God feels the same way, and He's given me so much. I owe that to Him. And then maybe I'll add could you please help my friend who's not doing well in math, or could you please help someone who's sick, and I kind of need help with this, and then I'll just say amen, do the sign of the cross.
I know for me it's more of a spontaneous prayer, no set prayer that you have to say say Our Father or Hail Mary. I just sort of go with it. And then I always try to do intentions too. I'll ask people, oh, what do you need prayer for? And then I'll pray for them, and usually it works.
I actually used to have trouble praying, so what I started doing was writing my prayers down in a little journal, and that helped me keep focused while I was praying. And then, like I said, an Our Father or a Hail Mary just so I could feel like that I was officially praying.
I kind of like to not so much pray like organized prayer or even like intercessions and stuff. I like to kind of just sit there and, you know, maybe meditate a little bit, have a quiet moment with me and God, you know, that kind of thing, where, you know, it's just take time out of your day for God rather than like, I'm not so big on like the organized kind of stuff, but.
Yeah, neither am I. I like sitting in the car like, by myself, and I just push everything else out of my head, and that's where you can let him come. It's the quiet, silent moments where I think you can really feel the most.
I know, like, for me, when I was little, I used to go to church, and, like, when I'd say the Our Father, I have my hands out and be like, oh, I wonder what toy I'm going to get when I stop praying. But then I learned, you know, as I got older, that it's not about always asking from God. You have to praise, you have to rejoice. Prayer is a lot of different things. And I think the other thing, too, is half of prayer is actually listening to God. It's not always you verbalizing your feelings towards God, but listening to God as well, because you have to get his response too.
Sometimes I definitely feel like God isn't listening to me because, like, if you're having a bad day or something and you come home and you just feel like everything is going wrong and you don't feel like he's listening to you when you're trying to ask him to make it better, so.
Many famous saints in the church went through times in their lives when it felt to them like God wasn't listening.
St. John of the Cross called this period the dark night of the soul. It felt like God was not there.
But he never gave up on God, and he continued to pray every day of his life.
St. John the Evangelist encouraged Christians to have confidence in God.
In the first letter of John, chapter 5, we read, "If we know that he hears us in regard to whatever we ask,
we know that what we have asked him for is ours."
The United States Conference of Catholic Bishops tells us,
the point of this verse is that, as children of God, we have confidence in prayer because of our relationship with him.
God does hear our prayers. He does bless our faith and hope in his goodness and his will for our lives.
Let's go back to the teens on the street and find out when they have felt God heard their prayers or helped them through a difficult time.
There was one time when my grandpa had to go through a heart transplant, and it was a miracle how he was able to survive, and he's been alive for 10 years on a heart transplant.
Actually, yes, a lot of the times, actually. I think because of God, he kept me out of trouble. You know, I don't do drugs, I don't smoke, I don't drink. So, you know, when I need it, he's always there.
My grandpa had actually died last year unexpectedly from brain cancer, and it was like 2 months, like really unexpected. And it was really, really hard for us, and we all didn't understand why it was happening. But it really made my grandma a lot stronger, and she was always so dependent on him, and now it's her own time, and she really is growing so much as a person now.
Yeah, I just moved to New Jersey this year from another country, and it definitely worked, like praying and stuff.
I was a drug addict, and I almost died a couple times, and I kept on living. So I know it's because I prayed when I was like crying.
Yeah, actually, my grandmother was like deathly sick in the hospital in a coma, and I was at church and I prayed, and 2 days later she was fine.
Can you share a time when God helped you through a difficult situation?
When my grandparents were real sick and they both passed away, it was a hard time for me. I looked at God and he kind of helped me out, showed me the right way to go.
Yeah, when I was at basic training at Fort Benning, made me get through that.
When I graduated high school.
I think when I was younger and my parents were going through a divorce, like I relied on like church and like God, because like I had a lot of friends at church, and that was probably the best time that I felt he helped me.
When my grandpa died when I was younger, I was so close to him. He was one of my best friends, and he just left, you know? So that, I was younger, so I really just dove into my faith. And now in high school, you know, you have teenage problems, I turn to God.
Yeah. Has God answered any of your prayers or helped you through a difficult time?
I would say yeah, because my mom, being a single parent, she has a lot of tough times, and I just pray for her once in a while, and she gets through it, so I'm very happy that he answers and stuff.
He definitely answers my prayers, because I always pray for my family's safety and that we're always okay. And yesterday my brother got in a car accident, and God has never really showed like safety like on our part, but he walked away from the accident. He was perfectly fine, and I was very grateful for that.
Just recently, my grandma passed away, and my mom was her oldest daughter, so she had to like take care of the funeral and stuff. And then I had younger siblings, so I had to like, you know, be strong for them. And so I was, and my mom came up to me and she's like, you know, do you want to sing at the funeral? And I was like, wow. because like I didn't know if I could do that much. But I actually managed. I sang without, messing up and got through it. And I think the only way I did it was because I prayed to God for help.
Yeah, the day after school ended this summer, my mom and sister and I were in the car driving down the Garden State Parkway on our way to vacation. And we were just driving along, and all of a sudden there was it sounded like a mini explosion under the car, and smoke started pouring out of the hood. And so my mom pulled over, and the three of us jumped out. And as I jumped out, I said a prayer to God, just let us be safe, and I don't care what happens to the car. And we all got out, and we ran a distance away, and a tow truck came, and we were all safe. And it was I was so happy, and I was so thankful to God, because people are more important than things. And even though the car was ruined and we couldn't use it for a month, all three of us were okay, and we had all done fine.
Nicole also feels that God has answered her prayers.
Sometimes she doesn't really ask for anything specific because she isn't sure of what she needs.
Next, she shares a few examples of how God has answered her prayers.
When I was little, I always wanted my whole family, my dad's side of the family, to be together, because my dad's one of 10, and I love his family so much because I'm the middle, and I have a lot of older cousins and a lot of younger cousins. And I always thought it would be so cool to have a family reunion. It was God, that'd be so cool, yeah. And so in 2000, we had a family party for my grandpa, who's 90 years old. So that was an answer to a prayer, and I went there that day. I was wow, this is what I've always dreamed of, and it was the best. God definitely answers prayers. It's just a matter of how he answers them and how long it takes the answer to come about. This past year, my mom got very sick. She had a brain aneurysm, so she had to go through lots of surgeries and stuff. It was during a really hard time because my friend's mom had just died of the same thing, and so it was kind of wow, because I was probably not appreciating my mom. I prayed a lot because I was really nervous for what the future would hold, and I found a lot of comfort in praying, and I didn't know what else to do, and I knew God had heard my prayers and would answer them how he felt best. And when I pray, I don't ask for what I want, because sometimes I just don't know what I want, so I just ask him to help me accept what he wants as best I can. Even though it was horrible, she's doing a lot better, and it just goes to show her how much we really need her. Now I just realize she's my best friend, and I don't know what I'd ever do without her. God let her stay here for a reason, and she just works through it every day, and she prays all the time. And through her surgery and her pain, she was up in the night a lot, and she would just wake up and pray. And she always tells me if she can say a whole rosary, she knows she's been up for a while. And it's just amazing, because she's just she so believes in prayer, and she's such a good person, and so she's definitely my model.
Can any of you guys think of a time when God answered your prayer in an unexpected way?
Well, yeah, this year I wanted to try out for the musical, and I was please just let me get into this show. But I actually ended up not trying out because I was doing it to help one of my old teachers. I was doing something, I played in a concert there for them. And the musical director for the show asked me to play in the pit. And I was but he convinced me to do it, and I actually ended up meeting one of my best friends. And before, I had switched schools, so I was please just let me have a friend, So it was almost he didn't answer a prayer then, but he answered it now. And I've gotten to shows after that, so it's he will answer it eventually, and other things will come from it.
That's really weird, because I remember I was trying out for this play, and I would pray that I would get the most minor part. I didn't care, because I just wanted to be on stage and play in front of everyone. And as I kept praying, and after I tried out, I got one of the main parts of one of the scenes, because it's a scene play. And it was really very unexpected, the fact that I would get a big part when I was just expecting such a little part.
My sister is actually an answer to a prayer in an unexpected way. My family, when I was 7 or 8, we had wanted to adopt another child, and at one point we had been told there's a woman who's going to give birth, and she's going to have a son, and when she gives birth she wants to give it up for adoption, and your family has been chosen to get the baby. And we were all so excited, and we prayed every night, and we had a countdown going until the baby was born. But I guess a week or two before they found out that the mother had been on drugs or had done something to herself during her pregnancy, and there were potential problems with the baby, and they didn't want to give it to a family that already had 2 children. They wanted to give it to just a couple with no kids. And so we were all crushed, and we were like, oh, that's too bad. We really wanted a son or a brother in my case. But a couple months later, we got another call, and there was a woman who's having a baby, and we got my sister, and I just love her to death, and I'm so glad that she came to us.
Back at the beginning of our show, one of the teens on the street said he wanted to believe that God answered our prayers, but he questioned if that could be true when we have things like cancer.
If God answers prayer, then why is there so much suffering in the world?
I think one reason is you can't blame God, because when we were created, he gave us free will. And it's, there's a saying God puts you in situations that you can get out of. You put yourself in situations you can't get out of. And I think that's true with why there's so many bad things happening in the world. God didn't do it. It was our free will that got us into those situations.
I think that for every bad thing that will happen, something good will come out of it. Like when God shuts a door, he'll open a window.
Yeah, like John said, God gave us free will, and we'll have situations where we're going to have to make a choice, and God doesn't make that choice for us. And if our choice happens to cause suffering, we can't blame God for that. But when we do cause suffering, God helps us get out of it, and that's the good that happens. Hence the saying, like Matt said, when God closes a door, he opens a window.
People tend to confuse suffering and problems in the world with a lack of a presence of God. People will blame horrible things that happen to each other on how to, you'll hear it, how did God let that happen? Where was God when that child was kidnapped? You can't blame God. The cause of this is evil, something completely different than God.
Yeah, we can't turn to God to end the suffering and evil in the world. We have to do something about it ourselves, but we have to pray to God and ask him for his help and guidance while we do it.
Psalm 4, verse 2 reads,
"Answer when I call, my saving God.
In my troubles you cleared a way.
Show me favor."
Hear my prayer.
Next, Nicole tells us why she believes God has the best plans for us.
And also gives us some encouragement when it comes to prayer.
I believe God does have the best plans for me because I'm here for a reason. I just don't know what that reason is yet. Prayer definitely changes people, especially myself, because when I pray, I don't know, sometimes I just feel a lot more calm. And before a big test, I'll pray, just be like, okay, God, I'm ready, but I'm not. Just help me with this. And so I'll just breathe and pray to God and hope for the best. I feel comfort when I pray because I know that he hears me even if I don't think he does. And it's just nice to get it off your chest. Sometimes I'll pray out loud, and it's comforting just to tell somebody. And I don't want to tell any person because sometimes I'm afraid they'll tell other people. So I just tell God and hope he'll do with it as he finds best. I do find it helpful to pray with other people in a group because I find that when I'm not the only one praying, that it's a lot more encouraging to pray with other people because I know that I'm not alone, and it's just helpful to see other people who are praying too, and especially when they're praying for the same thing and same intentions. For people who seem discouraged that God does not answer their prayers, just keep praying whenever you can, just whenever you feel down or upset or really happy. Because even if you think he's not listening, he is, and he'll answer your prayers some way, somehow, sometime.
So, do you guys feel that God has the best plans for us?
Well, there's a saying, and I heard it from my mom. She said, I thank God for all my unanswered prayers, because sometimes we really don't know what we want. We might not be praying for what's best for everybody. We might just be praying for ourselves. And I think the prayers God chooses not to answer exactly how we want is his plan for us. He's showing us what he wants us to do. So I think he definitely has a good plan for us.
What advice do you have for someone who is uncomfortable with prayer, or maybe has lost confidence in prayer?
Well, I'll first tell them to be patient and to not give up, because when you give up and stop praying completely, you're losing all touch with God. And I tell them to find different ways of prayer, go to mass, pray together in a group, make it more comfortable, or even meditate.
I agree, because also you can just wait until he answers you back, and you could just believe. And right after my dad died, me and my mom would pray together that we would get through our tough time, and he helped me mostly, and I got through it, and it really worked. So.
I think another thing too that you can do is God already knows everything that you want to tell him. Sometimes we just don't verbalize it. Don't be afraid to verbalize it. Like, let God know, and then that way you have a sense in yourself that you know that God knows.
Here are some words of encouragement.
Ask Jesus to help you see the answer to your prayers.
Sometimes they're hard to see.
Especially when he asks us to wait, tells us no.
Or has a solution we would never have considered.
But asking to have eyes of faith helps us to see
that the Father will always answer in love and do what is best for us.
We just need to keep asking in prayer.
Wait on the Lord, and he will answer in his time.
Do you believe God answers our prayers?
Or do you have an incredible prayer story to share with us?
We'd love to hear from you. Contact us through our website.
The address is www.realfaithtv.com.
Or you can call us at 609-406-7402.
We leave you today with a passage from Psalm 121, verses 1 and 2.
I raise my eyes towards the mountains.
From where will my help come?
My help comes from the Lord, the maker of heaven and earth.
Thanks for watching.
We'll see you next time on Real Faith TV.
God bless.